Get out from first class. Those 4 words hit Nathan like a slap across the face. No warning, no explanation, just cold, harsh dismissal. He sat there, stunned, as the flight attendant's eyes lingered on him, their judgment thick in the air. Nathan had worked his entire life for this moment, earning every bit of this first-class seat. But now, as the world seemed to turn its back on him, he realized that no amount of success could protect him from the harsh reality of prejudice. But Nathan wasn't just any boy. He wasn't going to let this moment break him. This was just the beginning of a fight for dignity, respect, and self-worth that would change everything. Stay with us as we dive into Nathan's powerful journey, a story of resilience, defiance, and the undeniable strength to rise above every barrier life throws your way. Nathan sat in his first-class seat, staring out the window as the airplane taxied on the runway. The hum of the engines was soothing, but it didn't calm his nerves. He was only 12 years old, but today felt like a big moment. His mother had given him this first-class ticket as a reward for his hard work. It wasn't just any ticket, it was a symbol of how far he had come in life. The boy who had once been told that the world wasn't meant for him was now sitting in the seat of the privileged. But the excitement he had felt earlier was fading fast. This wasn't a place he could easily blend into. The other passengers were mostly older, wealthy people, dressed in business suits, sipping champagne and chatting comfortably among themselves. Nathan, dressed in his best clothes, his mother's idea of presentable, felt like an outsider. His dark skin and the hoodie he wore for comfort didn't match the polished luxury around him. He glanced around, trying not to feel small. As the flight attendants began preparing for departure, Nathan's discomfort grew. One of them, a young woman with a tight smile, approached him. She had a look of polite professionalism, but Nathan sensed something cold in her expression. She stopped by his seat and addressed him in a tone that wasn't as friendly as he expected. "I'm afraid you're sitting in the wrong section," she said. Her voice was polite, but it felt like an accusation. "You'll need to move to your assigned seat in economy." Nathan blinked in confusion. "What do you mean?" "I have a first-class ticket," he said, his voice trembling slightly. The attendant didn't flinch. "I'm sorry, but this seat is for first-class passengers only." She looked at the seat assignment on her clipboard, then back at Nathan with a sharpness in her eyes that sent a shiver down his spine. Nathan's stomach dropped. The fear of rejection, of not fitting in, hit him hard. His mind raced, trying to process what was happening. I don't understand. I have a first-class ticket." He repeated it, but the words felt useless in the air, as if he wasn't being heard. Another attendant appeared, this one a tall, older man with a stern face. His gaze didn't soften as he looked down at Nathan. "I'm afraid this isn't the place for you," he said, his voice even more forceful. "You'll need to leave," the boy's heart pounded. But I paid for this ticket," Nathan said, his voice breaking. The attendant's eyes narrowed. "You'll have to go. This is protocol." He didn't give Nathan any time to argue. Before Nathan could fully comprehend what was happening, he was escorted from his seat and made to walk down the narrow aisles of the first-class cabin, all eyes on him. Every step felt like an emotional punch. The stares from the other passengers, the quiet murmurs of disbelief. Nathan felt like he had been stripped of his dignity. But this wasn't just about the seat, it was about something deeper, something that had been building for years. Nathan had always been told that he had to work twice as hard, be twice as good to earn a place in the world. He had done everything right, yet here he was, standing in the cold aisle of the airplane, watching his dreams slip through his fingers. Just as he was about to reach the back of the plane, the last thought that crossed his mind was this can't be how it ends. As the airplane soared above the clouds, Nathan sat in the cramped economy class seat, his body stiff with discomfort. His first-class ticket was now useless, and the weight of that reality pressed down on him. The plush seats of the front cabin seemed like a distant dream. He couldn't help but replay the moment over and over in his head, the flight attendants' condescending glances, the stern refusal, and the silent judgment from the passengers in first class. He had been pushed out, not just physically, but emotionally, and the sting cut deeper than he expected. Nathan had always been taught that opportunities were hard to come by, especially for someone like him. Growing up in a modest neighborhood where every small victory felt like a battle, this first-class experience had been a milestone, a reward, a sign that he was on the right path. Yet, here he was, sitting in economy class, struggling to hold back tears. He looked out of the window again, but this time the view felt meaningless. His phone buzzed, snapping him from his thoughts. It was a text from his mom. "Keep your head high, Nathan. Don't let anyone define you. You're more than what they see." Her words were comforting, but they didn't ease the bitterness gnawing at him. How could he keep his head high when the world was constantly reminding him he didn't belong? The sting of rejection ran deeper than just being removed from his seat. It was a reminder of the hurdles he had faced for most of his life, being overlooked, judged, and underestimated. But this time, it was different. This wasn't some random encounter, it felt personal. He was judged for who he was, not for what he had done. Nathan clenched his fist, trying to calm himself. He could hear whispers from the rows ahead of him, voices low but loud enough for him to make out. "Is that kid supposed to be in first class?" one of them asked. Another voice, colder, added, "I don't know how they let people like that in there." Each word stung like a needle, piercing the fragile shield Nathan had built for himself. People like that, the phrase echoed in his mind. Was that how they saw him? As an outsider? As someone who didn't belong? But then, in the silence of the moment, a new thought emerged, a small flicker of defiance. His mother's words rang in his ears. "You're more than what they see." Nathan wasn't going to let their judgment dictate his worth. He had worked too hard for too long to let this moment break him. As the flight continued, Nathan made a decision. This wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. He would stand tall, no matter what. He wasn't just going to be the kid in economy class, he was going to be the one who proved them wrong. The plane continued its journey, but Nathan's journey was just beginning. He had something to prove, not to them, but to himself. As the hours passed, Nathan's sense of unease began to settle into a quiet but determined resolve. His gaze remained fixed on the cloud-streaked horizon outside the window, but inside his mind raced. He had never felt so small, so powerless in his life. It wasn't just about the seat or the rude flight attendants. It was about something much deeper. It was about being rejected not for his actions, but for who he was. But then his phone buzzed again, this time vibrating on his lap. Nathan hesitated for a moment, unsure whether he wanted to face another text from his mom or just let the moment pass. But curiosity pulled him in. The message wasn't from his mom this time, but from his father. The message was simple: keep your head high, don't let them see you fall. His father's words were like a shot of adrenaline. His dad had always been a strong presence in his life. A man who had overcome far greater obstacles than Nathan could ever imagine. Nathan's father had fought battles in boardrooms, been rejected time and time again, and yet he never let it stop him. He'd often said, "The world will try to knock you down, Nathan, but the only thing that matters is how you get back up." Nathan read the message again, and for the first time since the incident, a flicker of hope ignited inside him. His father wasn't just some distant figure who sent motivational quotes. He was living proof that resilience could turn rejection into triumph. And now, Nathan understood that. He wasn't alone in this fight. He had inherited his father's strength and determination, and he wasn't about to let this situation define him. He sat up straighter, feeling the weight of his mother's encouragement and his father's wisdom settle over him like a protective shield. This wasn't just about a fight for a seat, it was a fight for respect, for dignity. He had a right to be here, in this world, with his dreams just as valid as anyone else's. The flight attendants continued to pass by, some offering glances of pity, others avoiding his eyes entirely, but Nathan no longer cared. He had a new sense of purpose. He knew his journey didn't end here, in the cramped, uncomfortable seat of economy class. This moment, as painful as it was only a stepping stone. As the plane began its descent toward Los Angeles, Nathan felt something shift within him, a quiet, unwavering confidence. He had learned the most important lesson of all, the power to rise, no matter the obstacles. And when the moment came, he would stand tall, not just for himself, but for anyone who had ever been told they didn't belong. He wasn't just a kid in economy class anymore. He was someone who would change the narrative. The plane began its descent, and Nathan's heart pounded in his chest as the tension in the cabin rose. The initial sting of being removed from first class had worn off, replaced by a determination that burned brighter with every passing second. But as the aircraft neared Los Angeles, he knew the final confrontation was imminent. What had started as a small, seemingly insignificant event had escalated into something far more personal. And now, it was time for Nathan to take action. The flight attendants had continued to move around the cabin, avoiding eye contact with him, but their presence only fueled Nathan's resolve. He wasn't going to let this situation end quietly. He had been pushed around his entire life, told that he wasn't enough, that his place was always a little lower than others. But not anymore. He wasn't going to be silent this time. Just as the captain's voice filled the cabin with the announcement about the landing, the door to the cockpit swung open and a tall figure walked into the plane's main cabin. He was dressed in a sharp business suit, and his presence was undeniable. Every head turned as the man made his way down the aisle, his posture exuding authority. Nathan's pulse quickened. There was something about this man that made him feel, for the first time since boarding, like maybe everything wasn't lost. The man stopped near the flight attendants, his eyes scanning the room as if he was assessing the situation. His eyes locked with Nathan's for a moment, an unspoken recognition passed between them. The man was someone important. He wasn't just another passenger or flight staff. Nathan could feel it. This wasn't just a random moment. "Is there an issue with one of my passengers?" the man asked, his voice deep and commanding. The attendant stammered, visibly unnerved. They tried to explain, but the man didn't wait for them to finish. He turned to face Nathan and then nodded with a brief but reassuring smile. "I've been made aware of the situation," the man said. "I believe it's time we talk about this, don't you?" Nathan could hardly believe his ears. This wasn't the response he'd expected. He had prepared for the worst, a confrontation with management, perhaps even a further insult. But this was different. The man was on his side. And suddenly a small part of Nathan felt vindicated. The attendants exchanged nervous glances, unsure of how to proceed. But Nathan didn't wait. His father's words echoed in his mind. "Stand tall. Never let them define you." He stood up, slowly but firmly, his heart pounding in his chest. He knew that this moment was more than about getting back to first class. It was about standing up for what was right. As the man continued to speak, his words becoming more direct and purposeful, Nathan couldn't help but feel a rising surge of hope. Maybe, just maybe, the world was beginning to notice that the rules had to change. Nathan wasn't just a boy. He was someone who would make a difference. And in that moment, with the plane finally approaching the runway, Nathan understood, no matter how difficult the journey, the fight for respect and equality was never truly over. But now, he was ready to fight with everything he had. The stakes had never been higher. The plane touched down smoothly, and as the aircraft taxied to the gate, Nathan's heart still raced. He had no idea what was about to unfold. His father, who had walked in with such purpose, was now standing tall beside him, a calm confidence emanating from him like a shield. Nathan could feel the weight of his words and actions coming alive in the air. The flight attendants, who had been part of this humiliation, were now visibly shaken, caught between their duty and the powerful man who stood before them. Nathan's father, never one to back down, had already made it clear to the airline staff that this wasn't just about a misunderstanding. It was about something deeper. This wasn't about one boy's seat. This was about equality, about respect, and about standing up against the quiet, systemic injustices that people like Nathan faced every day. It was about dignity, and Nathan could feel his father's strength rooting him in the moment. As the plane finally came to a complete stop, the man in the suit, the one who had taken charge of the situation, looked down at Nathan. His expression was softer now, almost sympathetic. "Young man," he said, his voice steady but filled. "With respect, I owe you an apology." You didn't deserve what happened back there. I've already spoken to the captain and we're going to make sure this doesn't happen again. No one should be treated this way, especially not someone as promising as you. Nathan could hardly believe what he was hearing. The apology wasn't just an empty gesture, it was real. And the fact that the man was using words like promising made Nathan feel seen for the first time today. His worth wasn't determined by his seat, by the color of his skin, or by any of the judgments he had endured. The flight attendants who had once ignored him or treated him with indifference now stood in silence, their faces marked with uncertainty. They didn't know what to say or how to respond. It was clear they hadn't expected this. They had expected silence or compliance, but Nathan had refused to stay quiet. He had stood up, not just for himself, but for anyone who had ever felt overlooked or pushed aside. As the passengers disembarked, Nathan and his father remained seated for a moment. Nathan's dad placed a hand on his shoulder, a gesture of reassurance. "You handled that better than most adults would," he said, pride in his voice. Nathan's chest swelled with a mixture of relief and gratitude. His father's praise meant the world to him. In a moment that could have broken him, Nathan had found strength he didn't even know he had. They walked off the plane together, Nathan's steps now more confident than ever. As they entered the terminal, Nathan realized that this wasn't just about a single incident on a plane. It was about learning how to fight for what's right, even when the odds seem stacked against you. It was about refusing to accept the limitations that others tried to impose. The journey had been long, but in the end, Nathan had discovered his own resilience. He had learned that the real measure of a person's worth doesn't come from external validation, but from within. His dreams were valid, his goals were attainable, and his voice mattered. No one could take that from him. The moral of Nathan's story was clear. No matter where life places you, no matter how others try to define you, your worth is unshakable. Stand tall, speak up, and never let anyone diminish your value. The world is ready to listen to those who dare to rise above the noise and show their true strength. And in the end, it's that inner strength that will lead you to the places you're meant to go. Nathan knew now, without a doubt, that he wasn't just a boy on a plane. He was someone who would shape the world, one brave step at a time. The story closes with Nathan standing tall, having learned the true meaning of resilience, self-worth, and courage. Nathan's journey didn't end with just a seat on a plane, it was the beginning of a new chapter in his life. A chapter where his voice is strong, his courage unshakable, and his worth never up for debate. His story reminds us all that we are more than the judgments others place on us. When life challenges you, rise up. Stand tall, speak your truth, and never let the world decide your limits. Just like Nathan, you have the strength to overcome any obstacle. The only thing that can hold you back is the belief that you can't move forward. So go ahead, break through those barriers and redefine what's possible. If Nathan's story inspired you and you believe in the power of resilience and self-worth, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Join our community for more powerful stories, motivational content, and life lessons that will help you unlock your full potential. Remember, every story we share brings us one step closer to creating a world where everyone can rise above, just like Nathan. Subscribe now and be part of the movement. Stay inspired, stay strong, and let's keep fighting for what's right together.